According to the National Center for Drug Abuse, over 165 million Americans ages 12 and up are currently abusing drugs or alcohol. Of those 165 million Americans, there is a mom, dad, sister, brother, wife, husband, son, daughter, or grandparent praying and pleading that they would stop. Addiction is a subject most people don't like to talk about and is kept behind closed doors. But the Finding Hope podcast will bring light to the subject and give families that are living in shame, guilt, hopelessness, fear, worry, and anger tools and education to find strength, peace, happiness, joy, and hope. Hello, I'm Amy LaRue, Finding Hope Coordinator for Hope is Alive Ministries and your host for this Finding Hope podcast. At Hope is Alive, our mission is to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. We do this through our intentional next-level sober living homes and faith-based support groups for the loved ones of addicts called Finding Hope. Thank you for joining us today. Just a friendly reminder about our upcoming retreats in 2026. We have one just around the corner in Colorado Springs, July 10th through the 12th. And then just a few months later in Lake Junaluska, North Carolina, September 11th through the 13th. You can learn more and register at fhretreat.com. But we also have some amazing Hope After Loss retreats just around the corner as well. So if you've lost somebody, we would love for you to be a part of these retreats too. You can learn more at halretreat.com, HALretreat.com. But I'm also super excited to be announcing our third annual Run for Hope race. Registration has opened and you can join us virtually or in person in Colorado Springs, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Weatherford, Oklahoma, and as well as virtually anywhere. And so you can learn more and register at runforhoperace.com. But today, I'm just going to jump right in. We have a special guest joining us today. And so we have Miss Danielle from Colorado Springs. So I'm super excited to have her. So how are you doing today, Danielle?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
And it's May. We're recording this in May. And you just said you guys got some snow, which is crazy to me here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, no, Colorado will snow whenever. It doesn't care. It has no bias toward what month it is.
That's right. Well, maybe in July we'll see some snow. I don't know when we're there.
Maybe. I would be a little sad if it was July. It was snowing. We didn't get a lot of snow in the winter, so I think it's making up for it. But that doesn't mean it can come in July. It's
okay. Well, we'll just see what happens when we're there. So, but Danielle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, I'm from Colorado Springs. I'm a native here, which is very rare. There's not a lot of natives around. I'm married to my husband, Donovan. We've been married for 10 years now. We have 3 awesome kiddos. They're 12 and 8. I can lose track.
It's okay. Me too.
I have to think about it. We own a small painting company here in the Springs, and then I also have the absolute pleasure of serving as the outreach director at our church. So
awesome.
That's kind of me in a nutshell. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And you're one of our Finding Hope leaders out in Colorado Springs, and so we host it there at your church, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So thank you for doing that. And obviously, if you are one of our leaders leading Finding Hope, addiction's impacted your life, right?
Yes.
And so you and I got the honor and the privilege to be able to talk yesterday, just a little bit sharing more about your story with me. And so will you just tell our listeners just a little bit how addiction has impacted your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So there isn't really a time in my life that I don't remember addiction being a prevalent kind of thing. My dad was an addict. He mostly alcoholic, but he also dabbled into other things. So my mom made the choice when I was very, very little to not allow him kind of to be in our lives any longer until he could prove sobriety. that came after she had found out she was pregnant with my little sister, and she told him no more drinking. He went out, and so she just packed all of his stuff in black trash bags and threw it out on the porch, and that was kind of that. So
did you understand what was going on?
No, I don't really have any memory of that. Like, some of my memories of him when I was little are not the most positive ones because, again, he's in active addiction, so obviously doesn't bring out the best sides of you. So I didn't really know why he wasn't around. I didn't have any understanding, but I did know that, other little girls had dads and I did not, and that loss was pretty profound. And then unfortunately, when I was 12, he ended up losing his battle to addiction, and he passed away. I didn't get to say goodbye to him, so I kind of went to this funeral for what felt like a stranger, but I remember feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to be sad, but I don't know how to be sad, because it's kind of hard to lose something you never had, but also it's still such a part of you, if that makes sense. So just a really kind of weird place to be, especially at 12.
And it's at 12, like you said, what am I supposed to be doing here? How am I supposed to be feeling? What are people expecting of me? But I don't know how to feel in this moment. What's going on? Yeah, that's a very hard place to be at as a 12-year-old, right?
Absolutely. And it was kind of weird too, because I have two half sisters. I have my oldest half sister, and then my dad had three girls with my mom, and then I have a baby half sister, and both of them had relationships with my dad. And so I remember kind of watching them and how they were grieving, and then how we were grieving, and it was just a really weird place to be. But that kind of shaped me in a lot of ways, because as you lose something that young and you don't really understand why, it led me down to make some not great decisions myself. And I ended up having a child pretty young. I had my oldest at 18 because I was out there seeking validation for that thing that I lost. So both of my sisters, my full sisters, they both have struggled with addiction. One is 5 years sober from alcohol now, so that's amazing. And then my other sister, she's, I won't say relatively sober, but she's doing well and successful. So that's what matters most. But addiction always there. And then unfortunately, when my oldest was 14, he started down that path as well, because it's generational. And he would go to school and he would just get prescription pain pills from all of his friends. They would pass them around like they were candy. And I knew, that he was, messing around with marijuana. I thought he was experimenting. He would get grounded. I would punish him, do the things. And then, I didn't realize the extent of the problem until his school called me and told me that I needed to come and pick him up. So I did. And when I got there, he couldn't even walk. He was not coherent. He could talk, obviously, but he was not making any sort of sense. And I was asking the school, what did he take? Because he was not like this when I dropped him off. They had no idea. So before I took him out, I withdrew him from the school, because I knew that's where he was getting it. And I ended up taking him to the hospital where he had to be admitted, and he ended up having 3 different prescription pain. Sorry, I didn't know if this would make me emotional. 3 different pain medications in his system. And we were having to hold him down because he was fighting, just to try to get blood drawn from him. And it was just very, very traumatic ordeal.
So let me stop you right there just for a second. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing it, because these are raw emotions, right? Anyone listening understands what you're going through. So you lost your dad at 12 to addiction, and after that, you're still trying to figure out who I am, what's going on, trying to deal with this. And you had your son at a young age, you mentioned, and then you also have watched your sisters struggle with addiction. So it's been your father, a parent, your siblings, and now your son at age 14, which is young, right?
Yes.
And you're what do I do with this? You're seeing him in the hospital, trying to figure out what's going on. How do I help him? I can't even imagine as a mom. I mean, I have a 14-year-old right now. My middle just turned 14. It's like, you can't even fathom that. Like, and, you know, as moms, we want to fix it, like all the things. And it's like, how is this something really something he's addicted to, or is it just a teenage thing? You know, I hear that a lot. Like, is this just him being a teenager? He got a hold of stuff at school, the wrong crowd, all those things. And so as a mom to this young child, I'm going to call him a child, 14, right?
Yes, yeah.
Like, what do you do with that while you're in the hospital with him, trying to figure out what's going on, like next steps?
Yeah, I mean, that was the hard part, is that I just I was so outside of my realm of what to do. And so my goal was just taking it one step at a time. And, you know, they had somebody, it was like the weirdest thing, because when you go into the hospital for something like that, they have to have somebody sitting in the room with you all the time. So that was really weird. So I didn't really get time to process a lot. My main goal was just like getting him home. So when we got him home, I knew that this was a bigger problem. Just by how he was acting, how he was withdrawing in the hospital, because it was a full active kind of like withdrawal. It wasn't just, you know, you got a hold of this one time. This is a big problem. And I think I had allowed myself to live in a lot of denial prior to that. Like, when you look back in hindsight, you're like, oh, yeah, now I can see it. But when you're living in it, you don't want to allow yourself to believe that your child is struggling like that. So I pulled up his mattress from his room and I put it on the floor of my bedroom, and I said, welcome to your new room. This is where you're sleeping from now on. And he slept on my floor for well over a month, until I felt ready to go down into his room and just completely clean it out. And the things I found in there were terrible. There were pills everywhere. I was very mad at myself that I did not see it. But I just cleaned out his room and, you know, kept him with me until I felt comfortable allowing him, until he had like fully withdrawn. And, you know, it was actually really cool, because while he was on my floor, we ended up having a lot of conversations. So I found out a lot more. I found out just how serious the problem was, that he was going to school and he was taking them by the handful. And those are his words, not mine. And it's crazy because, you know, all I did was send my child to school. So
that is hard. And I love the fact, though, that he was willing to open up, because not all of, you know, everyone's loved ones is willing. They'll just like, I'm not going to talk to you, Mom. You don't know what's going on. You don't understand. Right. You don't understand. That's my favorite term my kid says sometimes. You don't understand.
Yeah. Like, we've never been there. Never been 14 before.
No, I've never been 14. But, okay, so, like, what do you do? So you said you had withdrew him from school. So, like, so did you start, like, homeschooling him? Like, did you seek treatment? Like, what do you do? Because obviously you saw it. You're so wise. Like, and I tell people all the time, we've got to give ourselves grace. You know, we don't know what we don't know, you know, and, you know, so much of our loved ones, those that struggle with substances, they do everything to hide it from us, right? And that's what he was doing. And, you know, and so we've got to give yourself grace in that situation. But, you know, you are also so wise, and maybe God gave you that gift, you know, after walking through it with your dad and your siblings. Like, this is a bigger problem on our hands than I thought. You know, you saw the withdrawals, and withdrawals are not fun to watch or witness or hear about. You found all the pills. He was being honest about taking a handful. So what do you do with that next?
So because of his age and because of the type of insurance that we had, it was really difficult for me to find him any sort of like actual treatment programs. So we did do different and various like therapies, you know, drug related therapies, and that did help him for a little while. And then I just tried to get him super involved in sports and all the things, because he loved baseball. So I was making sure that he was playing a lot of baseball and just keeping a really close eye on him. I didn't really homeschool him, honestly. It was pretty close to the end of the year. I want to say this happened in like March. And so I just said, well, we'll work it out come fall. And we did. We just kind of withdrew him. And then we were feeling pretty confident where he was come the fall time. So we decided to send him back to a public school, which in hindsight was a terrible idea because he probably should have had more time under his belt. But we sent him back to school, and then within a couple of months of being, and it was a new school, obviously, with being in this new school, he had gotten into some pretty serious legal trouble because he had relapsed on something. He hasn't told me what that was, but, the decisions that he was making was pretty poor. So he got in some pretty serious trouble and ended up getting expelled from school, which just kind of sends you right back. It's just like a constant loop. Sent us right back to where we were. And, at that time, the courts had kind of stepped in, which was kind of nice, actually, because they had a lot more resources for me, and they were able to help me get him into some different areas and avenues, and then they were watching him pretty closely. So he was having to do drug testing through his probation and all the things, which was nice because then I knew what he was up to, and I kind of took away some of that worry for me. So he was still smoking a lot of marijuana, so that stunk, but I'm like, that's between you and the probation officer now. I had to let go of control of that because it was just, I would take something and then he would get it again. And then I would take it again and then he would find it again. And I'm like, how are you doing this? I don't understand. But, when they have a will, they'll find a way. They don't care. So.
Yeah. And we can do everything in our powers that we think, like search everything, think we got rid of it all. But like you just said, if they want it and they feel like they need it, they will get it.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So, so that was when he was 14. I think you mentioned earlier he's 18 now. So
well, yeah, that kind of happened like between the time span. It started when he was 14. So this was 14 through really 17 is the years I would say, all of this kind of happened. And
so how is he doing today?
He's doing really well today. He still struggles with some things. Obviously, it's not something that goes away all the time. Some of his traumas I would like him to address a little more, but he's an adult now, so, he has to make that decision for himself. But he's working. He ended up getting his GED, and he ended up getting that the same year that he would have graduated high school anyway, so that was a big accomplishment. And what was actually really redeeming about that is that, this was my firstborn son, and I wanted to see him walk a stage, and I wanted to see him, there we go again, be successful. And I didn't think that we were going to get to do that when we were going the GED route. But they've come so far with those programs that he did end up getting to walk in a graduation ceremony, cap and gown, all the things. He ended up being the youngest person in his class to graduate. And then they had people as old as 60. So he had a wide variety of people walking with him, which I just thought was really redeeming. And I just... God doing God things. Like, thank you for allowing me to still have that moment. Kind of like was healing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all, like we've talked about it on this podcast before, like we grieve, like you were grieving that, like we all have this vision. Like, I think about my kids and your other kids, right? Like we're close to a graduation with my oldest, another year. And like you have this vision, even like with my husband, the one that struggles with substances, now that he's in recovery, like there are things that I always envisioned, our marriage, our life, our family, and it's stuff that we have to grieve. But I love what you said, that God still redeemed it, right?
Yes,
it might not have been in the way we envisioned, but you still were able to see God in that, in this redemption story. So thank you for sharing that. So you got involved in Finding Hope about a year ago. We were trying to remember when you guys started Finding Hope there in Colorado Springs. So why did you feel it was so important to bring Finding Hope to your community and your church?
Yeah. So I was approached by somebody else to just co-lead Finding Hope with her. It has been something that her name is Kathy, that Kathy wanted to do for a really long time, but she was looking for somebody who was willing to co-lead it with her. And so it kind of fell in my lap. And honestly, at the time, I just wanted to support Hope is Alive and support Kathy and do all of that. But again, God does God things, and I found a lot of purpose in it now. And when my son was going through active addiction and through all of his legal troubles, and I was telling you this yesterday, I was on staff. Well, and I'm still on staff at a church. And so it was a really hard thing for me to navigate because I didn't want to share with anybody. I didn't want to tell anybody, and I did not tell anybody. And that's, again, nothing against my leaders here at the church. Like, they absolutely would have wanted me to come to them, but I just couldn't because I was walking this really weird line between church member and staff member. And I just felt a lot of shame and embarrassment about it. And so I kept it to myself. And so when the opportunity to bring Finding Hope here, I just didn't want people to have to walk through that alone like I did. Because there are so many people in your church, in your circle, that are silently suffering with it, that aren't sharing just because they're afraid of the stigma, they're afraid of being shamed, they're afraid of being blamed, because you're like, it's, how did my child get here? It has to be my fault, and so I just wanted a safe place for people. And then even bringing it back to my dad, he lost his battle to addiction. And if I'm not out here doing things, if I'm not out here sharing his story and making a difference and trying to change for future generations, excuse me, then what's the point of it? Like, I don't want his story to be lost. I want to bring meaning to it. And that's really important to me. So that's what I love about Finding Hope, is that it's given me the opportunity to do that, and it's given me the opportunity to heal from things I didn't even know I needed to heal from.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. And I love that, you mentioned the shame, right? You didn't go tell somebody, which we know if you would have, there would have been coming with loving arms. Obviously, you've shared now, the loving arms, the support. And so it's like, we've got to, if you're listening and you haven't told anyone, maybe you're just keeping it to yourself, I would encourage you, just pray about it. Like, reach out, get involved in a meeting, whether if it's not even a local meeting, maybe just jump on one of our Zoom meetings. You don't even have to talk. Like, just get that support so that we can start to break that shame down, because the enemy wants to keep us trapped. The enemy wants to keep us isolated and not get the support that we need as family members, right? You hear about all this great support out there for our loved ones, and yet here's us as family that are still struggling. And you mentioned the healing that's happened that you didn't even know that you needed. And I love that about Finding Hope. And I hear that about Finding Hope all the time. So why do you believe that recovery is so important for the whole family, for your son, for you, for the whole entire family?
Yeah, I just think it's not something that just happens to them. Like, addiction affects every single person. It's kind of like COVID is like how I would think about it, is like you get too close to somebody, and boom, you've got it. It spreads like that. Like, it affects every area of your life. I mean, even my little kids could tell you, like my daughter told me not that long ago, oh, well, my parents have been through enough, so I'm going to be nice, because she saw it even at a young age. Like, she knows the struggles that we've all been through, and it's generational. Like, if we don't break the cycle, then it's just going to continue. And so that's why I think it's so important to go out there and to talk to people, because it really does. It does not just affect your addict. It affects everybody and everything around you. Again, like even my job, like I would walk in here and be just crushed to my absolute soul, and just have to walk in here like, oh, I'm great, thanks, how are you?
Put on that mask, right? We're great at that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the more that the whole family heals, again, we just continue to break break the cycle and break the stigma, and people know that they don't have to walk through it alone. I just think, yeah, it gets to everybody. It does not stop with one person.
You mentioned your daughter and that she's like, I don't want to, I'm going to be good. I don't know the exact words you said now, but you have been through a lot. She's already saw that. But what she's also seeing now, Danielle, is the healing that you're doing. And we are very open with our kids about everything. What my husband's gone through, what my job is. They go to the Run for Hopes. They see it all, and it's so important for them to see our healing and to talk about it. And that's what you're doing now. So that's so encouraging, for your other two children. Like, they're seeing mom, she's different now. Like, there's healing, like God's working through her and seeing that through that. So what would you tell other families? Like, maybe let's go back. I think really one thing that's unique is that it's different when you have minors that are going through it, right? Yeah. You mentioned like your insurance, it was hard to find a place to send him, right? A place for support. And I hear that all the time with it. We do have some resources here at Hope is Alive, but they're not always in the same state. And sometimes it's hard for parents to be like, okay, I'm okay with them going 2 states away, or where it might be, or insurance doesn't cover it. It's private pay, all those things. Yeah. It's hard. Boundaries look different when it's a teenager or minor versus an adult, all those things. Enabling is different. Versus the helping, all the things. So what would you share with somebody? Maybe they do have someone, a minor, a teen that is going through it. So how could you encourage somebody that might be going through it?
I mean, I just, keep God at the forefront and center. That's the biggest thing. And then, don't walk through it alone, like we've touched on already. That's super important. But again, it's so difficult because you can't really set a lot of boundaries. Like, I can't say, hey, the next time you use, you're no longer going to be able to live here, because I'm legally obligated to let him continue living in my house. And you're still very much in an active parenting stage. So that's like the hard part, is because, when they're adults, you're more so moved to that support stage. And so you can set those boundaries and you can put things in place to protect yourself. But while your teen is doing it and you still have to be an active parent, it just brings a whole new set of challenges. So I would just say, find your support and keep yourself strong, because if you are not putting on that oxygen mask for yourself first, then there's no way that you can continue to support them. And then, reach out to a lot of resources. Like, as bad as it was that my son got in trouble, and that I hate that for him, it also was a blessing in disguise, because I was able to get him a lot more help. He went through 8 months of neurofeedback that I didn't have to pay for, because of the fact that it was legally required. So just utilize the resources and don't allow the enemy to let you walk in shame.
That's so good. Anything else you would tell somebody? Or anything else you want to share?
Yeah, no, I just think find that support group is really important. I did want to touch just like on, you can find healing in a lot of different ways. I mentioned to you yesterday when we were having a conversation, we've gotten pretty close with the guys that are in the HIA sober living homes that are surrounding us. So our Finding Hope group and the HIA homes have kind of built like a little family. We've brought them dinner. They've come to our support group, and that has been just like a really unique healing path that I didn't recognize, because I was able to look at these guys who were willing and wanting to get sober and were putting in the work, and they're just the sweetest guys. It breaks away the stigma of addiction, and you're like, at the heart of it, these are just people, and they're just broken people, and we're all like that in some sort of capacity, in some sort of way. So, I'm a big advocate just because of what I do for serving the community. So I would suggest that to even people is that's a tangible way, because I know like when your addict is an addiction, you want control, right? Because you've lost all control. There's nothing you can do about it. So get involved with Sober Living Homes. Get involved. Go to the Run for Hopes. All of that is going to be super important on your path for recovery, because it's giving you something tangible and something that you can control.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing with us today. Thank you for being willing to do this. Like I told you yesterday and today, someone needed to hear your story. And so I want to say thank you. And thank you for following God's calling and being obedient to that, to lead Finding Hope there. Whether it was like, I might be interested, but like now, like being fully immersed in it, and with that group as well with our Hope is Alive home. So I truly appreciate it, Danielle, and looking forward to meeting you in person soon in July.
So close.
So we look forward to honoring your dad at this year's Run for Hope. So thank you for giving us the honor and privilege to do that too.
Well, thank you guys. It's so incredibly healing for me. And I'm so honored to be part of both Finding Hope and Hope is Alive. So I appreciate you guys having me.
And so just like our meetings, I like to end our podcast with a challenge. And so just listening to you, what you were sharing with us today, I wrote down a couple things. And so I just want to challenge you guys, like that you kept saying the support. We talked about the shame and all of that. Like, seek your support. Reach out to me if you just need to start there. You don't even have to jump in a meeting yet, but reach out to a safe person. I would love to talk to you. My Darcy, who's on the podcast a lot too, she would love to talk to you. We just want to be there to support you through this, so you know that you're not alone in this, so you don't have to walk this alone. God doesn't want us to walk through these storms alone. We have a community, and that's why He's brought us together. So find your support. One other thing I wrote down is grace. Make sure you guys are giving yourself grace through this. You don't know what you don't know, and you do the best with what you do know. And so many times we can easily look back what ifs. And so today I want you to get rid of the what ifs and trust the story that it was, and trust the story that it is, and that God is in control of that, and to lean on Him through this now. And I love what you talked about right at the end. I wrote this down. Serve. Through this, get to know, whether we have a Hope is Alive home in your community or not. Like, find different ways you can serve your community. There's all sorts of ways, and hear their stories. Like, those are my favorite. And that's why we just recently had Kevin on our podcast sharing his story, his redemption story. And so that's a great way to get involved. So serve, give yourself grace, and share and find that support that you need. Anything else you want to, before I close?
When you're talking, my sister told me this saying, and it really resonates with me. She always says, it's your first time living too. So just to reiterate that point, to give yourself grace, you don't know what you don't know. It's your first time living too. So
yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for joining us this week. And Danielle, you can learn more about Finding Hope at FindingHope.Today. But before you go, we would love for you to give us a 5-star review, share this on social media, and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss our next hope-filled episode. Remember, you're not alone. It's not your fault. There is hope.